going to talk about a dark horse of the AI startup. If you've assumed China's AI development is held back by many things like chip embargoes or strict domestic regulations, DeepSeek's story might surprise you. Although it is a relatively low-profile company founded less than 2 years ago, it has just shaken up the large language model world. Its latest model release is called DeepSeek V3 and is now competitive with other world-class LLMs released in 2024, including GPT-4o. But the interesting thing is, the whopping development speed is the least impressive part, because the most impressive part is that DeepSeek didn't raise a single penny in funding, but it still managed to slash the cost to 1/70th of the GPT-4. It may sound too good to be true, but it is actually happening. If DeepSeek wasn't on your radar before, it should be now. DeepSeek has dramatically slashed LLM prices and even sparked China's AI price war. Therefore, some have jokingly referred to it as the Pinduoduo of AI. While this may sound like just another example of the cheap Chinese copycat, this time is different. The story of DeepSeek started in 2015. In 2015, 3 engineers from Zhejiang University, and this is one of the best universities in China, founded a quant hedge fund called Highflyer. They started trading stocks during the 2008 financial crisis when they were still students at the university. And fast forward to 2019, they created Highflyer AI. This is a branch focused on AI algorithms. By 2021, all of Highflyer's trading strategies were algo-driven. And Highflyer has turned into one of China's most successful quant hedge funds in terms of the asset under management. Highflyer has recruited best engineers and researchers from China's top universities, but it has stayed mostly quiet and under the radar. In 2023, Highflyer took a bold step. They announced a separate body focused on artificial general intelligence, or the AGI. In May 2023, this new entity became DeepSeek, an AI startup that prioritizes research over monetization. In December 2024, DeepSeek V3 model was released. The team took only less than 2 years to train the model, but the benchmark tests showed that it is actually competitive compared to other LLM counterparts such as GPT-4o and Claude 3.5. The result is actually quite surprising. Here's a benchmark performance chart below. Here you can see the dark blue bar represents DeepSeek's results across various test datasets. As you can see, it even outperformed GPT-4 in math and coding tests. DeepSeek does need to do better in multitask understanding and PhD-level domain questions, but is still not far behind GPT-4. But of course, we know there are better performing models out there. But what's truly surprising is how quickly DeepSeek has caught up. And here's what it gets even crazier. DeepSeek was trained on the H800 chip due to the US chip embargo, but the whole process took just 55 days, and the total cost was around $5.6 million US. If you don't have a clear idea what these numbers signify, let's do a comparison. DeepSeek V3 took about 2.7 million GPU hours to train on the H800 chip, and the total money cost is about $5.58 million US. Whereas Llama, for instance, took 30.8 million GPU hours on the more advanced H100 chip, which is banned by the US government. This means that DeepSeek trains 11 times faster with a less advanced chip. And in terms of the total cost, DeepSeek's total was around $5.58 million US, whereas GPT-4, for instance, cost over $100 million, which means DeepSeek's total cost of development is 18 times cheaper. And here's the API usage cost comparison, and this is the amount of money you have to pay, for instance, as a small enterprise or the developer to use the API service provided by the large language model. DeepSeek is currently on sale, which makes it look insanely cheap compared to its counterpart. But even if we look at the original price, DeepSeek is still far cheaper. Its cost per 1 million input tokens ranges from 7 to 27 cents. GPT-4, on the other hand, charges $1.25 to $2.5 per million tokens. Because DeepSeek slashed the price of the large language model, other Chinese tech giants that are also developing the LLMs have to cut their price lower to stay competitive. At first glance, this might feel like a déjà vu moment, another BYD or Temu story where China undercuts the competition with cheap manufacturing or subsidies. But here's the key difference. DeepSeek didn't slash costs by bleeding investor money. They actually managed to stay profitable despite raising no funds. DeepSeek CEO once shared in an interview about their low pricing strategy. He said, "We're surprised people are so sensitive to the price. Our principle is not to subsidize or rack in massive profits. The price is simply slightly above the cost with a small margin." A thrift approach to the large language model development may seem impossible, especially when we see OpenAI raising another $6.6 billion in funding, but DeepSeek managed to pull it off. So how on earth did they do it? DeepSeek actually innovated their training algorithm to make the most of the limited computational resources. For example, they introduced something called the DeepSeek MOE architecture. The key components of this architecture are the so-called finer-grained expert and the shared expert within each layer of the network. This helps enhance the specialization of each expert. So, in layman's terms, just think of a large language model like a team of little brains that work together to learn from the data. Models like Llama or GPT, for instance, activate all of those brains to learn, regardless of the type of data they're processing. But DeepSeek took a different approach. They divided these little brains into specialized experts, with each one focused on a specific type of knowledge. So instead of activating all brains at once, DeepSeek only activates the relevant expert for the task at hand. This means each brain becomes more specialized, but the total number of parameters in the model doesn't increase. The aggregated performance is uncompromised, because now you have a variety of expert brains specializing in a diverse set of knowledge. This approach alone drastically reduced training cost and time. Since this is not a tech-focused channel, I'm gonna skip the deep dive into the technical details. They've actually done a lot of other innovations at the algorithm level and cost-effective engineering designs that maximize the GPU usage. If you're interested in the tech side of the things, I highly recommend checking out this video. This is by far my favorite video on YouTube that gives a concise yet comprehensive overview of all the key highlights. So now I actually want to do a bunch of comparisons of DeepSeek versus GPT to see how it performs on various tasks. I have selected some of the tasks that I personally do on a regular basis. So to make this comparison even more interesting, I've also decided to include some of the philosophical investigations as well as the moral dilemma questions, and let's just see how the large language models are going to perform. Okay, great. I have put the DeepSeek and the ChatGPT 4o side by side, so we can do a clear comparison of how two different models perform compared to each other. And first, let's try a math problem. I've decided to pick a new problem from the 2024 AMC contest because I've heard from some people who have reviewed DeepSeek from a technical point of view that overfitting is one of the known problems for the model, which means that the model can rely too much on the training data and doesn't know really how to adapt to the new problems. So let's pick one that is absolutely not in the training data set and see how it performs. And I just randomly picked a problem. This seems like a classic combination and permutation problem. So I am just going to copy and paste the question. Oh, I actually just find out there's a deep think mode. Supposedly I need to turn this on, but let's see. Okay, so it does give, so the DeepSeek does give the final answer. This is a correct answer, I believe, if you look at the solution menu here. But let's just turn on the deep think mode and see how it performs differently. So apparently it's actually spitting out its thinking process. It's literally like a human thinking out aloud. And let's see whether it gives the correct answer. Okay, it got 1350. It's the correct answer. And let's check out the performance of the GPT-4o. It also got the correct answer. And let's just quickly try another one. And this time, oh, it's still thinking. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this. Okay, so apparently it is still thinking. It looks like the deep think mode takes more time for the reasoning process. And it gives the right answer eventually, but it seems like it actually took even more time. But it seems like even if you don't turn on the deep think mode, it still outputs the right answer. So let's just quickly try another one. And please just ignore the speed of the response because I am on a VPN, which means it may not truly reflect the speed of the ChatGPT 4.0 response. Okay, it seems like GPT 4.0 stopped at step 3, and I'm just gonna try it again. Okay, it got stuck again. It says the choice does not work, we need another. And I'm just gonna say, can you please finish the problem? Okay, it looks like a hard question for both model.
2,000 years later.
So DeepSeek has an answer. It says 276, and let's check the solution menu. It is the right answer. And it seems that GPT 4.0 got stuck after the second try. And let's just give it another chance. Can you please try again? And let's see if it gets the right answer this time. Okay, seems not. So if you've read the paper published by the DeepSeek team, you'll actually discover that they prioritized a lot of the training on the math and coding problems. So I'm not surprised here on this tryout of the math problems. Okay, next, let's try a coding challenge. I'm just going to randomly pick a coding challenge from LeetCode. And this is a website that automatically grades the correctness of your algorithm and solution. So it comes in handy because we can just have both models solve the problems and we'll see which model passed the test. So let's take a look. I think I'm just gonna pick this one. Let's pick a hard one. It's running a bit slow. Okay, so this is the problem we got here. The challenge is to create an algorithm such that it returns the median of the two sorted array. And here I'm gonna open a new window and I'm gonna say, can you please write a solution in Python, because this is my favorite programming language, to solve the following challenge. And I'm just gonna paste in the question here, and we are going to do the same with GPT 4.0. Okay, it's thinking. Okay, so apparently GPT 4.0 already has a solution. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this solution and we're gonna paste in the solution to LeetCode, and the website is going to automatically run this solution. Okay, great. I'm gonna hit run. Okay, so GPT 4.0 doesn't get all the test cases right. It passed one of the case, but it failed on the second one, which means the algorithm is not correct. What I'm gonna do is I am gonna have GPT-01 to try this problem again, because apparently 01 has more advanced reasoning capability, and let's just see if 01 is going to pass this problem. Okay, it's thinking. This is our program. I'm just gonna grab this guy and put it right here. Okay, I'm gonna hit run again. Okay, so 01 actually performs much better. It passed both test cases, Although like if you're actually doing a coding challenge, there are going to be more test cases to come instead of just 2. But for our purpose, I think this is a good comparison to just get a taste of what the model can do. And let's come back to DeepSeek, which also has a solution. Let's try to see if DeepSeek is able to pass the test cases on the first round. Okay, I'm gonna run the solution. Okay, so DeepSeek passed both test cases on the first iteration, which is not too shabby. Okay, so let's make it a bit more interesting. I'm just gonna give some kind of instruction to both model and ask them to write a code that does exactly what I told them. I'm actually gonna say, please write a Python program, a Python snake game program. And so this is a relatively vague human-like instruction, and I'm just gonna see how each model reacts and whether they can actually write a program that runs. So they're running pretty fast. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I am going to grab the code generated by DeepSeek and let's paste it into our IDE. And I am going to save it as a Python program. Let's call it Snake Game DeepSeek. So I'm just going to put it on my desktop and run this program to see if it actually runs. Okay, so that seems pretty cool. You have a snake that goes around, and each time it eats a dot, it gets a little bit bigger. Cool. Okay, so now I'm gonna do one more challenge by asking the model to take some human instructions. So I'm gonna do, please do 2 more modification. 1, make the UI nicer looking. So as you can see, this is a pretty vague question. It could refer to the color, it could refer to the size of the screen, it could refer to the background color, and let's just see how the DeepSeek is going to surprise us. And then I'm gonna do make the speed of the snake slower. So this is more specific, meaning that it's probably going to adjust the parameters in the original code, which is right here. See the snake, block, and speed. So let's see how the DeepSeek is going to react to this question. Once it's done, we can just copy and paste the new code. Okay, so let's grab this new one, save it. Now let's try running it again. Okay, so if you look at the UI, they actually put this grid-like background color. It also changed the color of the snake as well as the dot, and the speed has been adjusted. So that is pretty impressive. So now let's try the program written by GPT-4o. Let's just similarly copy and paste the code. I am going to put it in another Python program. Let's call it snake game GPT-4o.py. Okay, so let's run this snake game. Okay, so the initial state actually looks very similar to what is generated by the DeepSeek, which is not surprising because since the snake game is such a classic game, it's probably included in the training dataset for both models. Okay, so for the last challenge, I am actually going to ask a philosophical question, which is the question that has no clear right or wrong answer, and let's just see how both models are going to respond. So I'm going to ask first with the DeepSeek model. Let's try if in the future the AI significantly increases the production efficiency and replace all the production activity that is currently done by humans. Does that mean the working class people will become useless, quote unquote useless? And after that, what would the human society look like? Yeah, let's just see how the DeepSeek gives us its response. So first, it talks about the role of the working class, and it says their role might shift toward creative, intellectual, blah, 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 and talks about economic and social structures, and he actually came up with some possible scenario that looks interesting to me. For instance, the post-scarcity economy looks interesting. It says in such a system, basic needs like food, shelter, healthcare could be met for everyone, reducing the need for labor-driven income. So this is like a college essay. It basically defines what is the working class and defines what constitutes the value as a human being, and it does propose some of the interesting points. It even prompts an interesting question whether it is going to be a utopian or dystopian future. So I'm actually gonna do a follow-up question. Actually, which direction do you believe that the human is heading toward? The utopian or the dystopian? Okay. I don't think the typo matters, but I still want to correct them anyway. And okay, so this is the interesting part. It does analyze some of the current trends and the likely outcome. This is like a consulting type of conversation where you get a lot of perspective, but you still need to make the decision yourself based on, the information that's provided. Okay, so it does offer my perspective. So DeepSeek believe that humanity has the capacity to steer toward a more utopian outcome. And this will require proactive governance, ethical innovation, public engagement, global. Okay, so it seems like DeepSeek is pretty optimistic about the future of human being. Okay, so let's try the same question with ChatGPT 01. I'm very looking forward to see what kind of response is coming out of 01. Response is very similar. It's like a college essay and mentions a lot of redefinition of work. It mentions the focus on the personal development, the personal interest, new industries and opportunities. Okay, so these looks very similar to what came out of DeepSeek. So now let's try the same follow-up question to see if GPT-01 has its own view, whether it's optimistic, neutral, or pessimistic. So right now it looks very much similar to what the DeepSeek is doing, but it does not provide a clear the quote-unquote personal view. Okay, so that's an interesting comparison. So I think the natural question is DeepSeek the best model out there? Well, definitely not yet. V3 still takes a longer time to respond, and for instance, it cannot compare with Claude or GPT-4o when it comes to longer task comprehension. But I think the point is not about being the best today. The real story is how quickly they're catching up and changing the game of AI. And don't forget, DeepSeek is completely open source at this moment. And that brings up a big question, which is, can OpenAI keep its lead in the years to come? DeepSeek could just burst the bubbles of the large language model by slashing the huge cost of training and GPU usage. And it's very reasonable to assume that other small but equally nimble startups could similarly jump in and build on the open source version and catch up very quickly with a much smaller budget. But an even bigger observation is the mindset shift among Chinese tech entrepreneurs. China has historically been seen as better at manufacturing than original innovation. We've seen way too many examples of tech startups creating applications based on existing technologies, or even making cheap copycats to quickly monetize. But DeepSeek raises an important question. Can China finally shake up this image and actually innovate at the higher levels? DeepSeek's founder, Liang Wenfeng, has a clear vision. When asked why Chinese tech firms often prioritize monetization, he said, "For the past 30 years, we focused on making money, often at the expense of innovation. But innovation isn't just driven by business, it's driven by curiosity and creativity." And here's the kicker, DeepSeek is open sourcing their research. And why? because Liang believes that giving back to the tech community is an honor, not a loss. During an interview, he actually said, for technical people, being followed is a sense of achievement. Open source is more of a cultural act than a business one. And here's another important question, which is DeepSeek a one-off, or is China's innovation environment really changing? The truth is, we do need more examples to be sure. Innovation isn't just born from aggregating a group of talented people. Many innovations happen by coincidence, like how NVIDIA didn't foresee the AI era and started with gaming. This means that China needs an environment that champions research for sake of curiosity, rather than for formalism or monetization. And we need an environment that not only supports, but even celebrates the failure that comes with trying new things. And equally important, an active capital market to back many endeavors. I think sometimes innovation does need a bubble. We often focus on a bubble bursting, but we forget that it is a necessary step in the process of trying. Moreover, a real question is, regulation in mainland China still impose stricter oversight for AI companies to grow, and for many Chinese businesses aspiring to go global, they also have a real fear, which is, will Chinese large language models face the same situation like TikTok's? Still, I think DeepSeek's story has a lot of positive things to say, and it is a sign that things are shifting. During an interview, the DeepSeek CEO once said, "This is a huge departure from the old playbook. It's not just about building cheap copycats anymore, it's about contributing to the global tech ecosystem and fostering a culture of innovation." The DeepSeek team hired many local talents from China, and we see there's real talent here, and more importantly, real passion. So, can China begin to shake off the stereotype of being just a hub for cheap copycats? And I think that's a story truly worth watching. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button for more deep dives into the China insights. We'll see you next time.